welcome to Mind Shifters Radio. I'm Tim Hayes. I'm your host for the first hour. And today is Thursday, November 25th, 2021. Here in the United States, that is known as Thanksgiving Day. That happens to be the day many people celebrate giving gratitude, giving thanks for whatever good is in their lives. And we're grateful to everyone who's joining us here today, whether you're listening live or through the archives, as we spend yet another couple of hours teaching and supporting people in using some of the most powerful, effective, efficient, and accessible tools I've ever encountered. These tools are available absolutely free at whyagain.org. If you go to that website and click on the Start Here link in the upper left-hand corner, it will take you to a page where you can download and read Chapter 24 of Dr. Michael Rice's book. His book is titled, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? And that chapter of that book contains a narrative description of the primary tool in this work. That tool is known as the Reality Management Worksheet, sometimes called the Reality Management Wake-Up Sheet. And it's a tool I've been using to great effect for over 17 years to improve the quality of my life and most of my relationships, and to turn any negative emotional experience I have into part of the infallible guidance system that each one of us has been given. You can do that same thing for yourself, because that actual tool in the form of a PDF file is also available from that web page. It's a simple click and download the PDF, print it off, copy it, and use it as often as you'd like. You can also download a whole host of audio files of shows just like this one, where people have been stepped through the worksheet process and or given powerful testimonials about how the actual application of these tools in their lives has improved the quality of their life and relationships. You can also go to your app store and type in the three words Heartland, Aramaic, Forgiveness. And before you're done typing the word forgiveness, you'll see the glowing heart icon. If you tap on that, it will let you download a completely free and private app that contains the Reality Management Worksheet, an abbreviated version of that worksheet process, and a copy of the Dragon Klingon game, which is a wonderful way to introduce these tools to even younger audiences. And we hope people do that soon and often, because it frequently leads to comments, questions, testimonials, etc. If you have any of those to share with us, please give us a call at 563-999-3581. If you call that number and press 1, it will let me know that you have a request to speak, and I will turn on your microphone and we can have a chat. We always appreciate when people do that, because it makes it far easier for us to live into our intention with this work. The intention with this work is to be of service. And if you let us know how we can be of service, we will take every step we can to make that happen. We're also doing the Course in Miracles experiment, or workbook lessons, and the Course in Miracles experiment from Pam Grout this year. Today is the 329th day of the year, and that means today's Course in Miracles workbook lesson reads, I have already chosen what you, Creator, would will for me. Creator, I thought I wandered from your will. I had deified it, broke its laws, and interspersed a second will more powerful than yours. Yet, what I am in truth is nothing but your will, extended and extending. This I am, and this will never change. As you are one, so I am one with you. And this I choose in my creation, where my will became forever one with yours. That choice was made for all eternity. It cannot change, and it cannot be in opposition to itself. Creator, my will is yours, and I am safe, untroubled, and serene as I remember this, in endless joy, because it is your will that it be so. Today, we will accept that our union with each other and our source is our actuality. We have no will apart from the creation itself, and all of us are one because the Creator's will is shared by all of us. Through it, we recognize that we are one. Through it, we find our way at last back into awareness of our unity with all creation. And Pam Grout's Course in Miracles experiment, Lesson 329, is titled, So the Mothership Can Find Me. She quotes Tasha Silver as saying, what good are all the courses, initiations, and headstands if in the end the ego does the leading? Pam writes, I wouldn't go on a date without brushing my teeth, or I wouldn't write a resume without adding my phone number. So why would I start my day without tuning into creation, to his dudeship, as she calls it? Lesson 329 says that when I'm in, quote, a whiny baby mood, close quotes, as Anne Lamott calls grumpiness, when I'm in that mood, the mothership can't find me, and it can't rescue me. My only mission, Pam writes, I choose to accept it, is to remain open to the transmission of the always circling mothership, the will of creation, as described in the Course in Miracles workbook lesson for today. So that's our Course in Miracles workbook lesson and the Course in Miracles experiment commentary from Pam Grout. And as usual, we've got about 50 minutes to entertain your comments or questions, hold a conversation, assist you in doing a worksheet, or well, I'm getting a note from somebody else through Mindshifter Radio. Maybe it's Jeannie. So, what's on your mind? How can we support you today? It will be a light day for callers. I'm sure people are busy playing host in their families, preparing meals, watching football games, doing a bunch of other things that are traditional in America anyway for this day. And we're here to hold a space, to enumerate things we're grateful for, to answer questions or comments, or help someone step through a worksheet process, or answer questions about anything we've talked about in the past, pushing 11 years now on this internet show. The first 8 years, it was 5 days a week, 1 hour a day. And for the past almost 3 years, it's been 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. Also, almost 3 years ago, we initiated the MindShiftersAcademy.org website and began interviewing people. So we have interviews available from Pierre Pradervan to Guy Finley to Corinne Zupko. She's the author of the book From Anxiety to Love. We have interviews from a variety of people that were interviewed on the On Your Mind podcast for Journey's Dream that we've shared with this audience. Any of that is fair topic. How can we support you today? I was listening today to the Pema Chodron book. I have been drawn to a few more of her books recently because she is so consistent in her message, and and she likes the theme that I claim so often or use so often, is to be gentle with yourself. And the book I just began listening to this morning is Start Where You Are. And the message is very similar, but in this book she's going to outline a meditation practice and some statements or mantra practices and a presencing practice that is at the root of her Buddhist teachings. And the essence of it is, can I just wake up and understand that my mind, my conscious logical mind, will never understand who or what I am. So she suggests in the beginning of that book a practice that when you go into meditation, you tell your mind in the beginning that you know it's going to be thinking, and you're not at all interested in any of its thoughts. So here it is, you as awareness, you as that entity that can choose the focus of your conscious awareness in each new present moment. And you tell your mind, you tell your thought process that you're not the least bit interested in anything it can think of. The next thing to go with that is you tell it that you do have an interest. You are interested in learning something. What you're interested in learning is about yourself, not about your thoughts. So you're interested in learning about your true essence, and you understand that your mind, your thoughts, can't teach you about that at all in any way. And if you begin your meditations with those two premises, the suggestion is you'll have an experience that's quite different than trying to figure it out or trying to know yourself with your conscious logical mind. So, if there's something about being gentle with yourself that eludes you from time to time, if there's something about why we do meditation or what our goal is with any of this work, and you've got a question about that, give us a call, 563-999-3581. If you would just like to list a number of things that you're grateful for and share that energy through this internet show and the airwaves and the archives, give us a call and press 1. So I've had a pattern we've been talking about recently in my sessions with people where they're trying with their conscious logical mind. They're working with a let's call it a fevered pitch, concentrating rigorously, trying to make things happen with their conscious logical mind, and it doesn't really go. And we talk about, what about allowing this concept that is so foreign to the Western mind? Soon after we talk about allowing, we talk about surrender to whatever is. And I'm very used to it now. The Western mind, in the form of people on the internet show, people in the support groups, people I have in my therapy sessions, when I talk about surrendering to whatever is, allowing, the pushback is almost instantaneous and sometimes quite filled with panic, anger, vitriol, etc. And it reminds me of what is so kind of mysterious, is that our Western mind is taught to believe that we are controlled, we are controlling, and that we are either being controlled by others or we're the ones doing the controlling. And the fact of the matter is, as Michael Rice likes to talk about, we're always surrendering to one thing or another. We are either surrendering to hostility or fear, or we're going to be asked in this work to surrender to love, to life, to the flow of life, to what is in the moment. And when people first encounter that thought, there's a lot of pushback, mostly because it's brand new. And we are taught that the conscious logical mind, that thing we use to think our way into and out of problems, as we assume, is our primary gift from the Creator. And that's not really the way it works. As Einstein pointed out, we were given a precious gift, which is the intuitive mind, that ability to tap into the unconscious, the one mind of the Creator, the creative flow of energy, and we were given a faithful servant. It's supposed to be there to help us navigate through the world and make sure we don't walk into open manholes and bump into trees when we're not watching. And the intuitive mind is the gift, and the faithful servant is the conscious logical mind. And most of us living on this continent anyway, in the Western world, are living in a world that has almost completely forgotten the intuitive mind, the precious gift, and has elevated, here's the worst part, has elevated the conscious logical mind to the level of servant, to a role it was never intended to fill, to a role it's completely incapable of fulfilling. And then we wonder why we get so stuck and so frustrated, because we are trying to get our simplistic, mechanistic, as Guy Finley calls it, mechanical level of mind, we're trying to get it to do things it simply cannot do. And in this Pema Chodron advice about meditation, they start off recognizing that. Hey, conscious logical mind, I know you're going to be chattering at me when I sit down to do this meditation. I just want you to understand, awareness, that person, that part of me that has dominion over where I focus my conscious awareness, I'm completely uninterested in anything you have to think. So I know you'll be here. I know you're chatting away. I know that's just what you do and you can't help it, and I'm not interested in that. Okay, then what am I interested in? I'm interested in another level of mind. I'm interested in a higher mind, if you will. I'm interested in the intuitive mind, access to the one mind of the Creator, or what Jung might call the collective unconscious, what some people call creativity, some people call their spirit guides, some people call it the Holy Spirit. Call it what you will, as Guy Finley says so often. It's irrelevant what you call it. What's relevant is, can you begin to have an experience that goes outside, that goes beyond what your conscious logical mind can offer? And that's what we're asking to do every time we pick up a reality management worksheet. Every time I've got an upset of any kind, I get clear about what my conscious logical mind is doing, what it's telling me, how it knows so clearly who's right and who's wrong and what needs to change for it to be happy, and specifies what it needs and what it wants and all that happy hoo-ha. And then I take the bold step, the explorer's step, and I cancel everything that my mind tells me it wants and needs, and I ask to be shown something else. I ask something outside my conscious logical mind to offer me something that's outside its ability, the conscious logical mind's ability to offer me. And that's where the magic happens. I had a relatively new patient in the office yesterday, and he was talking about how he's doing a few worksheets, and he's listened to some of the internet shows, particularly a week ago yesterday when I stepped through my own worksheet process. And he says, the funny thing is, he sees the value in when he listens to somebody else doing a worksheet, but he hasn't gotten any of that value for himself. None of that magic happens when he cancels the goal. And we had a conversation about why that might be and about what needs to happen over time for him to step into the possibility that tool can yield different results for him. And we talked about it. We talked about how rarely he has done that worksheet process. We talked about, that's maybe 4 or 5 that he's done. And he said, yeah, when you did that worksheet last Wednesday, I could see how it really was useful for you, and it tapped into things from when you were 8 years old, and then you had a flood of memories from when you were in your 20s and maybe when you're 40 years old, and you got some connections in your mind between the personality dynamics or traits that my uncle was exhibiting in my interactions with him, and how similar that might be to the traits or behaviors that I am perceiving that somebody else as a grown individual in my life today is exhibiting, and how my interpretation of today's life events has such a strong resonance with the sadness, the fear, the anger, the upset, the hurt, the confusion that I began to feel in response to the interpretation I placed on an email 3-4 weeks ago now. And he said, I get all that, but every time I cancel a goal and ask to be shown, he said, I basically just go blank. I don't get anything. And I kind of chuckled, and I said, well, I understand that. I've done that. I probably have 10 to 20, maybe 30 or 40 different worksheets that I do where I feel I went blank, or I go from a negative emotion of anger to a stronger emotion of anger, or from an emotion of anger to an emotion of sadness, or an emotion of anger to an emotion of fear, and vice versa. And I wouldn't say, oh, wow, great, that was a transformative worksheet. I probably have 10, 20, or 30 of them for everyone that's like the one that I read on the internet show on Wednesday, a week ago yesterday. And I try to highlight that. I try to set people's expectations more accurately, that this is a tool, like any other powerful tool, that the more I practice it, the more I gain the facility with it in my own mind, the more I train my mind about what I hope it does when I utter the phrase, I cancel my need to be right, and I ask to be shown. When I first started doing this worksheet, my mind had no idea what I meant by that. I probably hadn't significantly canceled any goal ever in my life, consciously, until I ran into this work. So, while there is the possibility that in one of the first 2 or 3 worksheets I do, I get a significant shift or change or insight, it's also true that the power of the worksheet for me today, almost 18 years after being introduced to it, and using it consistently and teaching it, sometimes 5-6 days a week to people, and teaching it in the support groups over the last 17 years, the familiarity, the facility I have with the tool, the meanings that my mind has been able to take from this far exceed what I had when I first got introduced to the tool. And with that explanation, my patient left the session yesterday thinking, oh, okay, well, that makes good sense, and maybe if I practice more if I get myself to just go through the motions, it's kind of like being in a batting cage. Like the first time I held a bat, I didn't even know how to hold it or what the stance should be or how to time my swing, how to swing to have the bat be level as it crosses the center line, and I didn't know how to time that swing to have some kind of correlation to when the ball might reach the bat, etc. And so what a lot of people did when they wanted to learn a skill like that is they went into a batting cage. And I got news for you. Lots of times in a batting cage, I did a swing and got nothing but air. Many, many times in a batting cage, I did a swing and got nothing but air, or swung the bat so hard that it pulled a muscle because there was nothing for it to hit, and I was expecting to hit the ball. But when I'm committed to learning a skill, and I've got a goal in mind or some intention to fulfill when that skill gets learned and refined, I continue the practice. I have a set of expectations. I have some willingness to engage the process, even though many, many repetitions are unproductive. That's what I need to do with a tool like the Reality Management Worksheet. I need to be willing to engage the tool, Michael Rice likes to say, consistently and persistently over time. And as I do that, the results change. The muscle memory I have for the process changes, gets more pronounced. And the potential for what can happen in my energy system when I pick up that tool today is tremendously different than what the potential was 17 or almost 18 years ago. We had somebody call the internet show earlier this week and say, I have this rather serious, dramatic, intense situation in my life right now, and that worksheet's not a powerful enough tool. And I offered the observation that since that person was very, very new to the tool and has maybe done only a few of them, that the tool may have a lot more power than that person can access right now because they don't know how to use the tool and they're not practiced in the use of the tool. My hope is that that person and maybe or somebody else listening to that show will get sparked to question for themselves, what is possible in my life if I make a commitment, if I practice with a tool? What's possible for me in terms of living with less drama, less personal trauma, less unobserved judgment? Every one of us judge and judge and judge. We judge ourselves and we judge others and we judge the weather and we judge the politics and we're trained to judge so efficiently that we do it like breathing. We don't even realize. And as the Way of Mastery says, if you could see what happens in your body when you judge, if you could understand that the very cells in your body stop functioning properly every time you judge, whether you're judging somebody else or you're judging yourself or you're judging your thoughts or somebody else's thoughts, imagine if you could become aware of your judging, just that much, and release the attachment that you have, that your mind has to being right about your judgments. Just imagine how much could shift in your life if you could at least slow, if not begin to decrease the amount of judging you do. Why? Well, because as I just said, the Way of Mastery says, every time you judge, the very cells of your body stop functioning properly. Imagine how much better your entire life experience, from the physical to the mental, the emotional, could be if you could become aware of the judging that happens. And then, as Way of Mastery and Course in Miracles ask us to do so often, choose again. Right? Have the idea that this is happening in your life under your direction. If you wake up, then as I like to suggest to people, that we learn to live more from direct observation. That it's highly preferable to living from belief or conviction or training, conditioning. It's highly preferable to learn to live from direct observation. So if you can just take the step of observing and wake up to how often you judge, and then when you judge, observe, do I like how it feels now that I've judged? Do I like the results? If I like the results, I can do more of it. If I don't like the results so well, I can choose again. I can move into the next moment, releasing the attachment to judging. I can just observe that I'm judging. Diederik Wolzak, in his work, calls it the choose again 6-step forgiveness process. Why? Because he developed his forgiveness process from reading and rereading and deep diving into the Course in Miracles, and then applying it in his life the best he could through his prayer and meditation. And there he was in his 50s, basically planning how to end his life, when he finally said, well, I might as well just take one more look at this book, which years ago he had thrown away because it had some reference to God in it, and he wasn't interested in that. So, faced with the thought that he was going to end his life if he couldn't find a better way to live or a solution to his pain, then he dove into the way of the Course in Miracles, and this time, unlike what had happened years before, he didn't even notice the offensive material as a reference to God, and he just got some of the message about how you are whole and complete as you are. There's nothing of value that can be taken from you and nothing of value that can be added unto you. That you have access to a level of experience and being that can dramatically change your experience of life moment to moment if you would choose again. If you'd recognize that what's occurring in your experience is a direct result of what you have dominion over, which is the realm of your thought. And so he developed the Choose Again 6-step forgiveness process. And it is so much like Dr. Michael Ryzen-Genie's reality management worksheet that I decided to interview him for the On Your Mind podcast with Journey Stream. And I think I might have shared it with this audience in the on the internet show here. I might have played it as a best of show or a show when I wasn't able to be here live. But if you go to choose-again.com, Diedrich Wolzak makes that whole process available absolutely free. You can just download it and print it off. And the first step in his 6-step process is accept that what happened has been a trigger for you, that you're upset. And most of the people, that's where we block our growth, is that we're not willing to start at the beginning, and we say, well, it's no big deal, and I've done a lot of spiritual work, and I'm not going to let that bother me, and so if I start with that and move away and don't begin to do Michael Rice's worksheets or EFT tapping and breathing or the Choose Again 6-step forgiveness method, if I won't engage a process to discover how did I just create this upset, then I won't change. Right? I will stay in that mechanical level of mind, having one experience after another that seems so intense and asking again and again, why is this happening to me again? But if you go to the 6-step forgiveness process that Diedrich Wolzak outlines, the first step is just accept that you're upset, that you're triggered. The next step is pay attention to what you're feeling. What emotion do you have right now? The next step is ask yourself, is this a familiar emotion? And Diedrich says in his experience, it will always be a familiar emotion because by the time I think in Diedrich's work he says by the time you're 8, and various people say from 6 to 7 to 8 years old, by that period of time, you've already experienced every emotion you're ever going to experience the rest of your life, and then you just keep cycling through them. So he asks, is this a familiar emotion? And he says the answer is going to be yes. And when the answer is yes, then you ask yourself, okay, when is one of the earliest times that I remember feeling this emotion? And just let things bubble up. Don't grind your mind trying to think about it. Just let it bubble up. And, he says, most often, if you have just a little bit of willingness, something will bubble up. And when it bubbles up, go there. Remember one of those earlier times in your life where you had that emotion, and remember what was going on. The next step is ask yourself, what did I make that situation mean about me and my life? And it's going to be something very negative. Negative about yourself, or negative about the world you live in, or negative about whether or not you're safe, negative about your value as a person. And when you get clear about what you made that situation mean, then you can step into what he calls the 2-step forgiveness process. The first step is you talk to yourself, you talk to your younger self, and you say, I forgive myself for believing this negative thought about myself. And you breathe into that and you say that to yourself from the older self to the younger self and vice versa. And then the next step is you say, I forgive myself for forgetting that my true nature is whole and complete as the Creator created me, and that my value is internal, unchanging, and completely intact at all times. And when you step into that process and experientially feel the truth of how you felt at the younger age where you downloaded this negative belief about yourself, and you you give yourself permission to feel the fullness of the intentions that are bubbling up, and the fullness of the emotions that are bubbling up, and the fullness of the negative beliefs that were bubbling up. And then from the adult perspective, recognize that was an error. It was an error to believe that this situation meant something bad about me. It was an error in my thought, as the reality management worksheet points out, to forget that my true nature is whole and complete just as it was at its creation, and my value is internal and unchanging. And the more I do that process, the more I'm moving very, very closely to what Michael Rice and Jeannie present in the reality management worksheet, where I'm dismantling my attachment to the part of my mind that says it knows what's happened and it knows what needs to happen for it to be happy, and it's holding on to this goal, and I cancel the goal. And I don't just cancel the goal, I cancel the goal and I ask to be shown. So I'm acknowledging that there's another way to experience life, that there's another order of intelligence that I can get access to. You know, Guy Finley says in one of his talks, the Creator didn't just put you on the planet where somewhere, off in some Himalayan retreat in a mountain cave, if you search for years, you might find the guru who can give you answers. Guy Finley says, the Creator put you in a world where your instant, constant access to that which can teach you will never abandon you if you just ask it. If you just ask it. Now that's from Guy Finley. And here's Michael Rice, and he's got the Kaborish manuscript, and he's got all of these Aramaic scholars interpreting it in a team, and they come up with, hey, guess what Ruka Dakuja means? Ruka Dakuja means an elemental force specific to humans that's there for every human being that can break off the effects of your errors in thought and guide you to truth and happiness if you just ask it to. Same wisdom, same deep knowing, connection to a higher level of awareness than the conscious logical mind. Awareness that the conscious logical mind and its chattering and how we've been conditioned in our culture to elevate it to the level of master is a trap. Same knowing, same wisdom, same truth, same power. And all I need to do is get introduced to the awareness that I wasn't designed, I wasn't created to live in suffering. That process of suffering is initiated by and then maintained by a mechanical level of thought that is only supposed to be a very faithful servant. In the way of mastery, it says, excuse my language, but a very stupid servant. So, I've got about 15 minutes left. A couple people on the call. If you've got a comment or a question, we had somebody type in the chat room, loving this conversation, much needed info. You are correct. We judge things too much. Great show. I will be tuning into more shows. Check us out when you get some time at We Talk Radio on Blog Talk Radio. So, what are your thoughts? What would be of service to you on this Thanksgiving Day? Those of you that have chosen to spend some time with us, I want to honor that and make sure you have at least this empty space to feel invited to make a comment, to talk about what you're grateful for, to ask a question. 563-999-3581. Call that number and press 1, and you'll give me the thrill of seeing the little icon that looks like a hand instead of a question mark these days. In lieu of that, I could read a little bit from one of my favorite intros. I'm trying to introduce people to the Way of Mastery, and my description of it is, when I first learned of this book, it was because there was a Unity minister, a very mature, we used to call her Saint Jane. Jane Evenstar was her name. And I met her when I was down at Heartland for an intensive, and she emailed me soon after that intensive and said she was reading some of my blog posts, and she said, "Oh my gosh, this stuff is Way of Mastery," and I didn't know what Way of Mastery was, so I instantly ordered the book on her recommendation. And when it came, I couldn't put it down. I probably read the first lesson 30 or more times. I wouldn't read it more than once a day, and I'd carry the book around with me as I continued to read the first lesson until it felt like it was okay to go on to the second lesson, etc. And I had this book, and people would ask me, "What is that?" And at that point in time, I didn't want to push people away by talking about, well, this is a book that was channeled by Jesus, and his real name is Yeshua, etc., etc. So it was awkward for a while until I finally realized the only accurate answer about this book, this big blue book called The Way of Mastery that was never intended to be, it was intended to be 3 separate books, but the only accurate answer to the question, what is that book, is I don't know what it is, but it is singing to my soul. And then people would say, well, what's the difference between that and, if Jesus channeled the Course in Miracles, why do you need the Way of Mastery? And so I started saying, well, to my eye and ear, the Way of Mastery is a kinder, gentler version of the Course in Miracles. And people would say, what do you mean by that? So I said, well, if you got a few minutes, I will just read the first 2 paragraphs from the third lesson. The third lesson in the Way of Mastery is titled The Power of Forgiveness. And those first 2 paragraphs read as follows. If I search the languages of your world, I cannot find the words that can convey the love that I feel for you. I cannot find the words that can convey unto you the love that God has for all of us. I cannot find a concept, a word, an idea, a philosophy, or a dogma that can contain the mystery that is closer to you than your own breath, and it awaits your discovery. If I search throughout all of creation, if I search through the many mansions that exist within the domains of my Father's creation, and that creation is infinite, try as I might, I cannot discover anything that can truly describe you. I cannot find anything that is of greater value than you. In truth, I cannot discover anything that speaks more eloquently of the love that God is than your very existence. Therefore, in truth, I look upon you constantly and marvel at the radiance of my Father's love. It is through you that I come to discover all that God is. So that's why I refer to this book, The Way of Mastery, as a kinder, gentler version of the Course in Miracles. In the 6th lesson, in the beginning of it, it says, Indeed, greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. Indeed, Greetings unto you, beloved and holy friends. So it's the same sentence, printed twice. The first time is in regular letters, and the second time it's in italics. And then it goes on to say, if you understand the meaning of this greeting, if you comprehend the depth of each term used, already you know all there is to know, and you are well prepared to extend the love of God forever. Every time I read that, I think back to Lesson 3 in the first two paragraphs. If you understand, if you grasp at deeper and deeper levels each day with every breath what is being said in these first two paragraphs of Lesson 3, it is through you that I come to discover all that God is. If I can but understand that, feel that, grok it, grasp it, experience it more deeply every day I'm alive, my life will get better, even if I don't understand any other word in this book, even if I don't believe it was channeled by some higher intelligence, even if I want to fight and nitpick about any part of it, whether it is exactly the same forgiveness process as Dr. Rice's, or it's not as good as Guy Finley's, or it's better than Diedrich Wolzak's, it doesn't matter. If I simply understand the essence of those first two paragraphs from Lesson 3 a little bit more deeply, if I feel the truth of it a little bit more extensively every day, or even every week, my life will get better and better, far better than my conscious logical mind could ever understand or predict. And that's the point. That's where we began today, talking about Pema Chodron's book and the idea of kind of a preamble to a meditation that says these two things. Thing number one, hello mind, I know you're going to be chattering at me through this entire meditation. And that's okay. I know that's all you can do. That's what you do. And I want you to know, mind, I am not the least bit interested in any thoughts you have. I can't shut you off. I can't stop you. I don't need to. I just want you to understand I'm not interested. And the second thing I want you to know, mind, is I am curious. I am on the path. I am learning. And what I'm learning, what I want to know more about, mind, thoughts, can't teach me. I'm going to go, to paraphrase Star Trek, I'm going to go where no thought has gone before, could ever go. I'm going to go into deep experience of life. And my conscious logical mind and or any thought I might have about that process is completely incapable of going there with me. So, that's our offering for today. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being willing to be a participant either in the archives or live in the show today on this Thanksgiving Day 2021 in the USA. So today is a Thursday, so we will be back again tomorrow. I think I forgot what day it is, but there's a day next week where I'm doing an interview. I'm scheduled to be doing an interview on the same hour that I would normally be doing the show. So I'll be playing an interview I did with probably Dr. Richard Moss, who is just another person who has a very similar process to helping us learn to live in the now, see ourselves more accurately as who we are, He has a couple of books that we've discussed before. One of them is The Mandala of Being and Healing from the Inside Out, something like that. But his name is Richard Moss, M-O-S-S, and you can find them wherever you get your books. And I intend to play that interview on Tuesday next week because I will be busy doing an interview with somebody else who is only available during that time slot. So today's a Thursday, so normally we have a support group on Thursday. We will not be having a support group tonight, just in case you're interested. I probably forgot to put a block on the email, so it might have gone out and announced we have a support group tonight, but most of the people who attend those support groups understand that we are not meeting on a Thursday night. But we do have support groups Tuesday and Thursday night from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Central. Most days, unless it directly conflicts with or coincides with a holiday. And so please feel free to join us or pass that information along to somebody else. We have all the information you need to join us at mindshiftersacademy.org website. I will remind us all that we come from love. We're made of this stuff we call love. We actually are love, and everything else is false. Welcome, Jeannie Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Tim, and happy Thanksgiving. And please know that I am very, very thankful for you and all you do for this world and for us.
Well, right back at you. You're very welcome and deserving, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. And I will hang up here and go be with mine, my sisters and mother. And blessings.
Thank you.